Welcome to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy. Let's talk about the Book of Boba Fett, specifically why I loved the flashbacks, but I didn't think they worked. Now, a lot of people are hating on this show. I am not one of those people. There is a lot to love here. The effects, the action, the new characters, Ming-Na Wen, always awesome, and any Star Wars is better than no Star Wars.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Okay, so most Star Wars is better than no Star Wars. Before I get into this critique, I just want to say, Jon Favreau is an amazing writer. I will never be the level of writer that he is. I am scum. Or, as Greg from Real Rejects put it,
shut the f*** up, Ryan Airy. Shut the f*** up.
That being said, overall, after 4 episodes, I give this show about a C, C+, but it could have very easily been an A with a couple of small tweaks. So, let's talk about these flashbacks. Personally, the story of the flashbacks are my favorite part of the Book of Boba Fett so far. The story has a perfect beginning in the literal belly of the beast. In the classic hero's journey outlined by Joseph Campbell, this is the part of the story where the hero is at their lowest point, when they can go no further as the man they used to be. The belly of the beast forces the hero to change, to become greater than their past self, and to emerge stronger and new. So it would have been a waste for Boba Fett to get out of the belly of the beast and then just start bounty hunting again. This experience has to change him. And without ever seeing a Star Wars movie, this opening tells you everything you need to know about this man. He is a fighter. After leaving the Sarlaac, he finds himself brought lower and lower. He loses his armor. He's captured, enslaved. He can't escape. He's taking orders from a child. See, I love a story with a clear arc. I'm a sucker for a character starting off one way and then evolving into someone totally different. Probably why Peggy Olson and Christopher Moltisanti are my favorite characters on Mad Men and The Sopranos. So I really love that we saw Boba Fett brought low, and then he has to earn the respect of the Sand People. First with violence, and then with his cleverness. Eventually, he comes to love the ways of the Sand People and finds peace among them. My only complaint about this whole plotline was that it was too quick. We needed some sense of the length of time. I mean, Boba was in the desert with them for years. Did he take a wife? Why did he choose to stay with them instead of escaping? What was it about the Tusken way of life that brought him peace? We never really find out why. And it's because this whole story was told as a flashback. Flashbacks, by their nature, are addendums to stories that take place in the present. They're meant to support the stories that happen in the present day. But the flashbacks on the Book of Boba Fett gave it a disjointed structure that prevented us from ever understanding what the hell Boba wants and why he wants it. Now, I'm not saying all flashbacks are bad. In fact, let's first dive into the purpose of flashbacks and throw out some examples. This will illustrate why the flashbacks in this show do not work. Now, like I said, flashbacks are meant to progress the story of a character's present or future self. There are many reasons to use flashbacks in your story. They're usually there to provide important information about a character's motivations, their relationships with other characters, or just to give the audience knowledge that this character doesn't have. But the question is, what is the best way to incorporate these time jumps into a story? Because my problem with the Book of Boba Fett isn't the story of the flashbacks, it's how they were incorporated into the overall narrative. So here's an overview of the basic types of flashbacks and the narrative purpose they serve. I'm going to briefly talk about a few movies and TV shows, but I'm going to avoid heavy spoilers for all of them. First, there's the non-linear storytelling flashback like Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction's present day is the Pumpkin Honey Bunny scene at the beginning of the film, where the narrative picks up in the last scene. But the flashbacks aren't kicked off by a character remembering something or a crossfade. They're just chapters in the story that provide context for the final key scene. But most flashbacks are initiated by a single character remembering their past. Think of Lost. Its flashbacks gave us insights into the character's motivations, thematic content, and story context while maintaining a standard timeline. To understand how these characters will react to events on the island, we have to know who they were in the real world. And this is also true of Orange is the New Black. To understand why these women make awful choices in the present day, we have to see how their morality was first compromised in the past. The flashbacks in these shows are baked into the narrative structure, often occupying entire acts of an episode, but they always relate to the events the character is going through in the present day. Now, we also occasionally have shows that spend an entire episode in a flashback, like the 1980s episodes of Fringe or the occasional episode of Friends.
You know, maybe playing her that song we wrote last week?
Emotional knapsack?
Yeah.
Right on.
And we also have the intermittent flashback. This isn't a show that rarely uses flashbacks at all. So when one happens, we know that it's providing vital information about a character. For instance, in Game of Thrones, we flash back to Cersei as a child receiving a dark prophecy.
Gold will be their crowns. Gold, their shrouds.
And from here on out, we understand her character motivations so much better. A prophecy also creates a ticking clock. We've heard how her life will end.
You'll be queen. For a time. Then comes another. To cast you down and take all you hold dear.
And now we're waiting to see this prophecy fulfilled. This is very similar to the flash forward in the final season of Breaking Bad. We see 2 flash forwards of a future Walt whose life has turned out bad. The rest of the season is showing us how he arrived at that point leading up to the final episode. The common thread here is that they all serve the story that's happening in the present day. Remember that for later. But first, we have to talk about the granddaddy of flashback films, and the movie that probably inspired Jon Favreau to use flashbacks to structure his space gangster show. Now, if you haven't seen this film, go watch it after this video, and light spoiler warnings. The movie's present-day timeline follows gangster Michael Corleone trying to consolidate his family's criminal empire while also trying to keep his actual family together. The flashbacks show his father, Vito Corleone, arriving in America and slowly building up that same criminal empire. But the flashbacks are showing the root causes of the problems that Michael is experiencing in the present day, basically showing that the family tree has rotten roots. But Godfather 2's flashbacks also work because they're not jarring. Each one is placed in the perfect spot. When the tensions are high in the present day and we're wondering how in the hell can Michael get out of this jam, and then we fade into the sepia-toned world of young Vito. The flashbacks also relate thematically. Minor spoiler for something that happens early in the film. Michael's family compound has just been attacked, his children placed in danger. This is the action that kicks off the second act of the film. And we're wondering, who the hell did this? How's Michael gonna respond? How could this have happened?
In my bedroom where my wife sleeps, where my children come and play with their toys.
And then we go to young Vito, struggling to make his way in New York, stealing for the first time. Vito makes this choice to provide for his family, but we just saw that the consequences of this choice will endanger his same family many years later. But the Godfather 2 flashbacks link to Boba Fett in a more important way. In Godfather 2, young Vito starts as an immigrant with nothing in America, not even a surname.
Vito Andolini from Corleone.
Vito Corleone.
While Michael begins the movie with everything, a sprawling empire, big house, large family. Vito's journey leads him upwards through the movie, while Michael's leads him downwards. The two meet in the middle, when Michael's wife loses her baby and Vito's infant son becomes sick. So each flashback has a thematic mirror to Michael's story. Sorry, wait. I'm getting all mixed up talking about Godfather 2. I need some way to get back on track in this video. Flashbacks, by their nature, are addendums to stories that take place in the present. They're meant to support the stories that happen in the present day. Yes, that's it. Thank you, Flashback. The problem with the Book of Boba Fett is that the flashbacks do not serve the present day storyline. It's the opposite of Godfather 2. In the past, Boba's story is rising, while in the present, his empire is also rising as he gains more muscle and experience. Plus, the flashbacks aren't initiated by Boba remembering them in a way that helps him draw from his past experiences for help in the present day. They're initiated by him sleeping in Bacta. So these flashbacks are simply memories that are never justified by Boba Fett needing to recollect them. For instance, in episode 2, he wants to find out who tried to kill him. So they go to town, they find out the Hutts are involved, and that's it. Then he goes to sleep and he dreams about his experiences with the Tuskens, the train sequence, his vision, getting his own gaffy stick. The flashback is showing us him becoming one of the Sand People, but the present day story it's really nothing. In the present storyline in the first 4 episodes, Fett is constantly challenged by obstacles and other crime lords, who then just go away. It's like the present day storyline is just waiting around, waiting for the flashbacks to catch up. Writer Pat Verducci said, if you have to use a flashback, make sure whatever happens in the flashback moves the present story forward. What does the character remember or learn in the flashback that urges them to action in the here and now? In the example of episode 2, the flashback he remembers does not affect the present at all. It's just a Bacta dream that takes up the final 2/3 of the episode. And this is really why I didn't like the use of flashbacks in this story. Instead of supporting the present and providing context for Boba's journey, they delay his journey. There's political intrigue the last 1 episode. He doesn't learn about the other gangs till episode 3. And from the first episode on, the audience is wondering, why does Boba Fett want to be a crime lord now? Because this answer isn't immediately revealed, we assume it's going to be for some master plan that's revealed in the flashbacks. He wants revenge on a group, he wants to liberate the Sand People, something. But it turns out that halfway through the series, the answer is revealed as,
I'm tired of our kind dying because of the idiocy of others.
oh, you think you can do better than your bosses? I mean, that's why Dylan wants to become assistant manager at McDonald's, not a reason to become a crime lord. And the thing is, Boba Fett really could have benefited from flashbacks giving him insight into the present. I mean, he starts off the series having no idea how to be a crime lord. He doesn't know anything about the politics of the city until episode 3.
Mos Esper, was divided amongst 3 families.
He doesn't even know that his money can buy goons until the end of episode 4.
What I'm short on is muscle.
Credits can buy muscle.
He's really bad at being a crime boss. The flashbacks could have given him a lot of crucial information that he could draw on in the present day. For instance, learning about the politics of Mos Espa. But I'll get into that later. Screenwriting guru Sid Field says, if you do decide to use a flashback, think in terms of the flash present. Ask yourself, what is your character thinking or feeling in the present moment? But the Book of Boba Fett never creates a clear link between the events of the present and the past. At least not enough of a link to justify using flashbacks for a narrative device. Pat Verducci also says, always make sure there's a trigger in the present day story that motivates us to flash back. For example, an object we see in the present allows us to make a visual cue to an object in the past. And this is another reason why I did not like the use of the Bacta tank in this show. The flashbacks are involuntary, they're dreams. They're thrust upon Boba Fett and not used as him recollecting experiences that he can learn from. Plus, constantly going back into the Bacta tank makes him seem weak. Imagine if John Wick just stopped every now and then to take a nap and rest up. By constantly retreating to heal in the present day, Boba is giving himself a constant out. Things get bad, he goes to sleep. Things get bad, he goes to sleep. The exception is when Black Cursitan woke him up. But even then, they fought him off and then they traded him for a Rancor. So it was cool, but pointless. In fact, cool but pointless describes a lot of what happens in the present day. Now, it may sound like I'm being too harsh. The flashbacks do show Boba Fett the value of having a tribe, so he forms a tribe in the present day. But the problem is, these events are not structured to make them feel connected. For instance, in episode 3, Boba Fett recruits the Mods, who, by the way, I frickin' love. They're cool as hell. Then, in the next flashback, we see the aftermath of the Tusken slaughter. Now, if you move that flashback to the beginning of the episode, we would see that Boba is sad about losing his people. So, in the present day, he seeks out new people to guide and protect. But the way it's structured now makes these events seem like they're unrelated. And this is true of every single flashback in the show. In the Book of Boba Fett, the flashbacks do serve a practical purpose. They split the time that took place before and after The Mandalorian. But I think this is pointless, and the story should have been told chronologically. Let me give you an example of how this would have worked. Start with him in the Sarlaac and the rescue and all that. Then he's trying to cling to his old life. He's trying to get away from the Tuskens who captured him. But then he learns that there's a better way, dances with Sand People and all that. And while he's with the Sand People, he learns about local politics. He learns who's running Mos Espa because he is the only member of the tribe who can go into town and treat with people. This would all be laying the groundwork for him to understand the political goings-on later when he's doing crime. And after spending, say, 2 entire episodes with the Tuskens, we would get a feel for how long the passage of time was. I mean, in episode 4, we hear that he was with them for a few years, but it never felt that way. And spending more time with the Tuskens would have given us a greater affinity for them and their way of life, so their deaths would have hit home even more. But most importantly, this would have given us a clearer idea of what our main character wants. First, he wants to survive, then to belong, and then to make sure that people aren't slaughtered like this again. And, if I may, in the present day, the heat really needs to be turned up on Boba Fett's empire. Constantly going to flashbacks gave us this feeling of a lot of starting and stopping, retreating to the Bacta tank, constantly walking into town. Constantly walking into town.
Making my way downtown, walking fast.
Instead, I think the present-day storyline should have started off with him holding his feast at the height of his power. Then, the assassination attempt happens, and from there on out, he's always on the defensive. He never has time to get back into Bacta because there are constant new threats that he has to overcome. Strip him down to nothing again, just like he was at the start of the series. Really challenge your main character instead of constantly giving him an easy out. Introduce a ticking clock from the start. The Hutts are coming, the Pikes are coming. If you don't get into Bacta in a day, you'll never heal. That kind of thing. He should have always felt under attack from several sides, unknown enemies in the shadows, maybe even within his own court. There's all these fun tropes from gangster dramas that the show has been ignoring because the narrative has to constantly make room for the flashbacks, stalling the events of the present day. Wait, sorry, what are flashbacks used for again? I can't remember. Sorry, wait. I'm getting all mixed up talking about Godfather 2. I need some way to get back on track in this video. Flashbacks, by their nature, are addendums to stories that take place in the present. They're meant to support the stories that happen in the present day. Yes, that's it. Thank you, Flashback.
You will make up my cabinet that I shall rule the world with.
No, that's enough. No more flashing back. That's far enough. Stop. Well, that's just what I think about the Book of Boba Fett so far. Let me know your thoughts and theories down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.